there was a certain disciple at Damascus named Ananias. And to him said the Lord in a vision, Ananias. And he said, Behold, I am here, Lord. And the Lord said unto him, Arise, and go unto the street which is called Straight, and inquire in the house of Judas for one called Saul of Tarsus. For behold, he prayed. And he had seen in a vision a man named Ananias coming in, and putting his hands on him that he might receive his sight. Ananias said, Lord, I have heard by many of this man how much evil he hath done to thy saints at Jerusalem. And here he hath authority from the chief priest to bind all that call on thy name. But the Lord said unto him, Go thy way, for he is a chosen vessel unto me, to bear my name before the Gentiles and kings and the children of Israel. Now, in the first chapter, or the first verses that we read in Hebrews, we found that Moses had vessels that he used for the ministry in the tabernacle. And here we find in Acts chapter 9 that Jesus called Saul, who became Paul, called him a vessel. And I want you to know this morning that you are a vessel. I am a vessel. And we are vessels unto the ministry. I'm going to give you 3 things to write down this morning. 3 very, very simple things I want you to write down. If you have a pen, take it out, grab something to write on. And I want you to write down, I am a vessel. Okay? Not real long, not real detailed, but write it down. Now, it's important to note here that Paul, or Saul as he was known at this point, he was a known man. People knew him. And Christians feared him because he bound them and they were persecuted. But Jesus stepped in here, and you guys that know anything about Paul at all know that Christ called him and used him to write most of the New Testament. Christ called him a vessel. He said, He is a vessel unto me, a chosen vessel. And as you can see, and as I've already told you, we're talking about vessels today. Paul was a vessel. You are a vessel. Turn to Romans. Romans chapter 9. While you're turning to Romans chapter 9, think about Paul for a minute. Paul did bad things. Just like I have done, just like you have done. What did I say earlier? We are all sinners. And we have all, look at this coffee cup right here. Used to be one of my favorites because I didn't have but about 2 or 3 at the time. And I will embarrass myself a little bit. The last cup of coffee I had out of this cup, I failed to rinse it out when I was done. And I don't know if you can see it or not, but it's got coffee residue in it or something like that. You see that? Now it's dry, so it's not going to work. Now look at it. Now, would any of you like to have a cup of coffee out of this cup? No. Guess what? I wouldn't either. This cup is dirty. It needs to be washed. Okay? Paul, or Saul I should say, was not someone that anybody thought Jesus was going to do anything with. Ananias said here, when Christ told him to go and help Paul, Ananias said, do you know who we're talking about here? I've heard what this man has done. But Jesus said he's a chosen vessel. Now, if I wanted to, I could have a nice, refreshing cup of coffee out of this if I took it downstairs and washed it first. Okay? So Jesus knows better than I do what you can be used for. And if you've done things wrong, which unless any one of you is Jesus reincarnate, we've all done things that we shouldn't have done. And you can all still be used by God. Now, you might need a trip through the dishwasher or a visit to the sink, but you can still be used. We'll talk more about that in a minute. Romans chapter 9. Romans chapter 9. Let's start in verse 15. I won't read quite so many as I did in Acts, but we'll read a couple verses here. Romans chapter 9, verse 15. For he saith to Moses, I will have, this is God speaking, I will have mercy on whom I will have mercy, and I will have compassion on whom I will have compassion. It's important to note here that God's going to use the vessel that He wants to use. If it's dirty, He'll clean it. God said, I will have mercy on who I want to have mercy on, and I will have compassion on who I want to have compassion on. I thought about Job when I was preparing this message, and Mrs. Palilling's song reminded me of Job. Job lost everything that he had, and he hit rock bottom. And you know the story of Job and what his friends did and what his wife did. And I can imagine that Job probably didn't think that what he was going through was best for him. But God said, and this is important for you to realize this morning, God is God. And God knows better than I do. God knows better than you do. In the book of Malachi and in other scriptures, Isaiah 55, God says, my ways are higher than your ways. My thoughts are higher than your thoughts. Folks, I don't know all of your backgrounds, and I don't know what kind of things you've been through. And frankly, I'm talking about sin. I don't know what kind of sin you've done. But it doesn't matter what you've done. If you will let Jesus Christ wash you out and use you, you can be a vessel that He can use to accomplish His work. Right. I want to encourage you this morning. You are a vessel, number one. And number two, write this down. God formed you, or you can write, God formed me for a purpose, or God made me for a purpose. You are a vessel, and God made you for a purpose. God has a purpose for every vessel that He makes. Now sometimes we might mess that purpose up. This coffee cup is used to drink coffee from, and it's in pretty good shape. Now it's broken, but you can still drink coffee out of it. That's right. You understand what I'm saying? You are a vessel. You might be broken, but God can still use you. Amen. You might be dirty. You might need to be washed by the blood of the Lamb and be made clean again. But this cup is not destroyed. That's right. You can still drink coffee out of it. I'm looking right now. But if you clean it, you can use it. This cup is busted. You might feel busted. You might feel like you've been broken. I hope that you don't, but you need to understand that no matter what you've done and no matter what condition your vessel is in, God can use you. God can still use you. God made you for a purpose. I don't know necessarily what that purpose is, and you might not know. But let me tell you this morning that God can still use you. God can still use you. This cup is one of my favorite cups. My mother-in-law gave it to me, and it has the 10 Commandments on it. This cup is broken. I don't know if you can tell by looking at it, but right here around the bottom of this handle, there's a little hairline fracture. And you can put coffee in here and drink it. It won't spill out everywhere, but you can use it to drink coffee. But it's a pretty big cup. So if you don't finish your cup real quick and you set it down on your desk, 20 minutes later there'll be a coffee stain on your desk. Might wreck the papers you set it down on because this little fracture here, some people might not be able to see where you're broken. This cup is pretty clear that it's broken, right? It's pretty obvious. And by the way, we do have a vacuum cleaner around here, so don't worry, I'll clean up the shattered glass. This cup, you can see that it's broken. Some vessels are scarred by the damage that's done to them, but they can still be used. Yeah. I hope that you will know that no matter what has happened to you or what you've done, or what's been done to you. This cup didn't break itself. I broke it. No matter what has happened in your life, God can still use you. Now, some people, the damage to their lives cannot be seen. I don't know, can you even see that crack on there? It's there. I know I've ruined papers with it. But look at it. I use this as a pen holder. So even if it's something like this, you can't see the damage to this cup, but it's there. It's there. But it's still being used. You were made for a purpose.